I think I did that for 2 months. It was too much, and I felt a little bit of racial discrimination from some comments and stuff from some of the students. I had no interest in doing NYC. I learned a lot about my identity in that small week of pruning that I experienced. If I get into it again, this gist is going to be long. So, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Claire Idera, and I will be clearly speaking on my career journey. So a few of you have sort of known me for the longest time, but I'm sure if you're new here and you just see my face for the first time, you have definitely no idea what I do and who I am. So I'm Claire. I've worked in the creative industry for the past 10 years, and the point of this video is to show you that there's no career journey that is ever linear. It's ups and downs, there are corners, and it's pretty much a zigzag roundabout journey. But as long as you're learning through the process, that's all that matters. And the goal of any career, passion, purpose is to truly be who God has called you to be. And so I'm going to be sharing my story, my career, my degrees. I won't go into the details of the people that I've worked with and the lessons that I've learned, but I will eventually make this like a series depending on how much you guys like this video. So I think it's fair to give you context. So I'm Nigerian, and usually a lot of Nigerian kids start school quite early, so that's why we tend to have a lot of degrees as well. However, everyone is different, so please do not use your life to measure mine or my experiences, because that's not even the point of this video. Okay, so this is pretty much like a timeline story, and I'm going to start from when I was 13. So I went to a seminary school, BMJS, and I started entrepreneurship at the age of 13. I remember in GSS 3, we had just gone for, actually, starting in GSS 2, I had just gone for this Christmas holiday, and one of my cousins gave me lots of stickers. I also grew up in a home where celebrations like birthdays, Christmas were really important, and my mom would always have a card for everything. She was the mom that whenever she traveled or went anywhere and she saw a very like unique card, she would buy it. Like, we had a card for funerals, we had a card for birthdays, a I just want to celebrate you card, naming ceremony card. Like, she had cards for everything. So I also took on that interest, and there was a place that I had gotten like really tiny cards. So the cards were pretty much this size, and they would say, I miss you, I love you, happy birthday, so sorry, I apologize, and all those type of cards. And I think at the time they cost like maybe 100 naira for a pack of 20. So I decided, you know what, I was gonna show off to my friends. I took all these cards. I also wanted to give cards to my friends as well, and so I took all these cards, these stickers. I took a lot of my Christmas gifts to school, and for some reason every girl, I won't say every girl, but a lot of the girls in the hostel in my class really wanted my stickers, and I decided to sell them. So I sold the cards that I got for 50 naira. This is that we all had pocket money. 50 naira at the time was a big deal, so selling those cards at 50 naira, I can imagine how much profit I made on 20 cards. I was a rich babe in school. And obviously I sold the stickers. By the time the stickers ran out, I kind of ran out of business, and so I was, scouting for more cards. Sometimes I would make cards. I would also write people's notes for cash. I would also sell my food because I didn't like to eat food. So yeah, I pretty much was buying and selling at the age of 13. So after school, I went on to study architecture for my undergrad, and during my first year, I knew that I shouldn't be in that architecture class, but I stayed there because my mom felt like I was trying to chicken out. But in between graduating from secondary school and my first year in uni, I did A-levels at Oxbridge College, and that was where I found my love for fashion illustrations. So in my second year of university, I would illustrate for myself, and then in my third year, I was more active on Instagram. I'd open an Instagram account, and so I was sharing my illustrations on social media. Shortly after, I got my first gig from one of my followers. I did an illustration for him, and by my fourth year of school, 400 level, I had done my first major project with a company that made me illustrate print designs for some banks in Nigeria. So that was a really big deal, and that was sort of like the beginning of my career. I learned a lot in that space. Actually, during my 400 level as well, I was working as an online merchandiser for a fashion brand while I was in school. So what I had to do was to post post their fashion products, and once people were interested, I would sort of guide them through it, give them more options, and make sure that I sell. I actually initially applied for that job as their fashion assistant, but they told me that I was too young or inexperienced to work as their fashion assistant. So I told them that I was going to give them a condition that if I sold the most of the products on the team, that I would be considered for the fashion assistant role. And so of course I did. I sold the most while I was even still in school. So once I graduated, I immediately got a fashion design role in that company by October of the year of graduation. Once I had finished university, a lot of my mates did what they usually would do, which is wait at home for a holiday and wait for their name to be called out for NYSC. But I had no interest in doing NYSC. So to this very day, I still haven't, and I don't have any fears. I don't care. People have said all they want to say, but really, this is just my journey. It's my life. I do what I want. I love my country and I serve it in many other ways, but I didn't feel like that was significant, especially because of the condition that my school had given for us to do the NYSC. They required us to do a master's in architecture in that school before they would post us off for NYSC. And I was like, hell no. It's looking like this video is going to be long, but I hope you enjoy it and kind of understand how there are certain things in life that just push you forward, and there's certain things that you need to specifically do and desire for yourself for you to become who you need to become. Somewhere around my first year and my fourth year of architecture, I did intern as an architect, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I was a very significant contributor in the company that I worked, that they even desired for me to come work with them afterwards, but I just didn't enjoy the experience as much. I think I enjoyed more the interaction with the clients and sort of guiding the clients on their interior design aspect as opposed to the project management of architecture. And so I was just like, I'm not ready to exploit. If I'm going to even do interior design, I'm going to do it for my life, for my friends, for myself. I'm not going to take it as an actual job, especially in Nigeria. I don't know how you guys do it, but and plus my stature, I was very slim. I was always having to struggle with a lot of these artisans, and I was having to man up a lot, which was just unnecessary stress, right? So once I got into that job, I worked well, released a collection, worked with some stylists, and I had to start applying for my master's, because in a Nigerian home, once you graduate from university, your undergrad, the next thing is master's or go do your NYC. And I actually really wanted work experience, but my parents had other plans for me. And that year, in fact, this is going to be a different gist entirely, but I had like fights with my parents on what course I was going to further study in. They were very sure they wanted me to do architecture, but I was super sure. I was even more sure than them that they were going to waste their money. So it was really a tug of war, and I had to really prove myself and give them a reason to trust me. If you want, I can give you the tea on this. Anyway, I had to leave the job that I was doing, relocated to the UK to help my sister. She just had a baby. So while I was there, I was still working. I'd worked with a few more brands as a freelancer, and I decided to go to University of Arts London, which I did a short course in. In that short course, I realized that I knew more than my teacher, and I was supporting my classmates more than the teacher was supporting the classmates. So in that class, it occurred to me that I feel run school. I feel start a school. So while I was there, I learned what I needed to learn in terms of understanding the syllabus curriculum, and I started my business, CI Workshop. So CI Workshop is a fashion design and illustration school based in Lagos, and I immediately came back to Lagos by May. I had already a fully booked class. I did 3 of those classes, 2 in Lagos, 1 in Abuja, before I eventually went for my master's a few weeks after my Abuja class. It's giving testimony time, but yeah. So that's sort of how it worked. In between all these months, from when I graduated to when I entered for my master's, like I said, that was a full year of, going a tug of war with my parents on what I wanted to do. And considering the fact that I was completely reliant on my parents to pay my fees, it needed to be worth their while. In between this time, I'd gotten a lot of industry recognition. I had newspaper features. I think the moment that really made it for my parents, or the moment that really got them, was when I had gone ahead to start this business, CI Workshop, and I made significant amounts of money that they wouldn't have imagined their 20-year-old would have made. I guess the other 20-year-olds that made big money, but I guess they just didn't imagine that I would be that that ambitious. So once they had seen that and I had the conversation, I told them what I was doing, showed them my business plan, showed them my students, the testimonials. My dad was like, okay, all right, girl, make your application. And I applied to the third best university in the world and I got an admission. That's going to be another story. So if you want me to go into details on how to get into a fashion school or to get into any course at all that you didn't, for your master's, that you didn't study as your undergrad, because that's a skill on its own, please tell me in the comment section and I will guide you on what I did, of which some of you sort of have an idea already, what I did to get past the requirements of getting into a master's degree like that, considering it's one of the best in the world. And if you also want the tea on how I was able to convince my parents on the course that I was going to study, please tell me in the comment section. I can give you further gists about this. If you also want to know specifically how I was able to use the internet to begin my creative career, please also tell me. I mean, you will see the comments in the comment section. Just go and tap the like button on that comment. The one with the highest likes on the comments is definitely what I'm going to do next. So please engage. Okay, so moving on, I relocated again in October of 2015 to go and do a teaching degree, which was also a diploma, a graduate diploma in creative practice. And this degree allowed me to be an expert very quickly in a couple of creative degrees so that I could sort of supervise and, So I did 1 year teaching degree in Kingston University and also a 1 year Master of Arts and Fashion in Kingston. During this period, I started exploring art as a career. I exhibited my work in Washington, D.C. using Osengwa, one of my friends who is based there. And I think for a long time, I've just always loved art. I was one who would represent my school in art competitions when I was in secondary school. So I knew that somewhere, somehow, I was going to do art. While I was doing these degrees in Kingston, I also continued my freelance job. This allowed me to earn some money. I worked with Hugo Boss, I worked with Grey Velvet, I worked with Zashadu, a few other Nigerian brands to create their fashion collections while I was also studying. Wild. So while I was also doing my master's degree, I began working as a teaching assistant for the foundation class in the school. And I think I did that for 2 months. It was too much and I felt a little bit of racial discrimination from some comments and stuff from some of the students. And so I was just like, hell no, I'm not about to. So I just stopped that there. So by the time I had finished my degree, I stayed a little bit in the UK before I relocated again back to Nigeria. Even though I was in the UK, I was actively building my Instagram community of Nigerian creatives. I was also working on relationships with Nigerian creatives, and it was sort of easy for me to come back to Lagos and, merge with them again. I didn't feel like I'd lost out time like that. And I was also, putting out work and stuff and showing people what I was interested in. So shortly after I had relocated back, which was in January of 2018, I also exhibited in Relay Gallery, which was my first Nigerian exhibition, and it went really well. It went so well, like, guys, I was so encouraged, and you would think that immediately I would continue my career as an artist, but no, I went back into the fashion industry and I still kept on working with brands, and I started working on some really big projects for Nigerian universities. I also continued with CI workshop, considering that it had been a very long while in between my first 3 classes and 2018 when I had returned back to Lagos. I got engaged in 2018. I'd been dating this guy for 4 years. I'd been dating him since before I relocated. And so when I came back, I thought he would just quickly marry and we'll relocate to the UK. But this man did not believe in living abroad. Got married in early 2019. I got married and I got depressed. I struggled, guys. If you have not heard about this gist, I can give you the gist afresh here on this channel, but I have talked about it with my husband on our couples channel, which I will tag somewhere in the description or maybe on this post. You can watch that after. But I got depressed and I struggled to work, and I know that this really came from me being the planner for my wedding. It really took a toll on me and I couldn't work for 6 months. I stopped taking on projects, stopped looking at my emails for for 6 months. I was just planning the wedding. And so once the wedding was over, it was such a shock to me. And my emails were also piled up. And so I was having like really strong anxiety going through all those emails, apologizing to people. And so I just didn't open my emails again. And obviously this affected my work life. I hated that I wasn't working, and this sort of made me quite depressed. Eventually, it took me a while, but later on in that year, I went back, started work again after like maybe 4 months. I got back into work and I did my first workshop since I had gotten married. It went well. Yes, our workshop was going well up until the lockdown. So if you've been watching this video up until this point, you like what you're hearing, please give it a thumbs up, like it, share it, comment, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Lockdown happened and we had to rebrand into an online school, and this was also quite successful. I also got pregnant during the lockdown. Oh my god, I got pregnant during the lockdown, but I still managed to do some projects during that time. During the lockdown as well, I made some fashion sketchbook that I felt like people would be able to use in their homes, and so I was selling these sketchbooks on Jumia, on also our website, the workshop website, and it was really going good until I had my daughter in 2020 December. And obviously from what I had learned in when I just got married, I told myself that I'm not going to take a break for anything. In January of 2021, I went back into work. I gave myself a few weeks and I didn't have any problem with it. Let's say 2 weeks of rest before I went back to my emails. Literally the day after I gave birth, I was in my emails. Yeah, and I did it for myself because I know my limits, I know my capacity, I know my experience, I know where I'm coming from. And so shortly, about 2 weeks after I had my daughter, I had this illustration project from a New York publication, and I took on this work. It was really great, and the book was released. Very encouraging. And so from there, I just continued. I started the workshop again. At this point, I had my first staff for the workshop, no longer having just volunteers, but actually someone on my payroll. And by the end of the year, the staff number increased. In 2022, we got our own space on the island, very beautiful space. I'm sure some of you know about this. We also rebranded. We had a very, very, very beautiful website as well done. We had frequent workshops, and at the point of 2022, before I got this space, we had been doing these workshops in rented spaces, and so we could only do it sparsely. So in a year, we'll do a max of 3 workshops. However, 2021 was good because we, for the first time, did kids workshops. We did them more frequently, but we still did a max of about 3 in 2021. But by 2022, guys, Mommy Gabby, she already had a space, and we did 12 workshops in the year 2022. 2022 was such a brilliant year. Let's now think about this, right? I studied architecture, I did fashion design. Ideally, I would start a fashion brand. No, but I wanted to teach. That's just what I wanted to do. And while I was still teaching, I was working with brands, etc. still. However, I was not illustrating, I was mainly designing. I also forgot to mention, in 2018 and 2019, I worked with Mr. Folawiyo, was on fashion shows for the Lagos Fashion Week, and it was quite really great. So, I had quite some experience to say I want to start my fashion brand, but I was just too traumatized. Fashion brands in Nigeria is not easy. It's either you have the money and you just want to do big things, or you are ready to go to the streets and fight to become who you need to become. And I didn't think that I had that in me. In 2021 as well, I exhibited another art collection shortly before I had my space. So yeah, I'm so sorry I'm mixing all this up, but you get the point. I explored every possible thing. So in 2022, like I said, we took the bold step to open up our own space and have our own workshop. We were able to collaborate with Lagos State, did some really great collaborations with some brands as well. And honestly, at the end of 2022, I was so proud of everything that we had achieved, like the vision board for the year that we had set with the team. Like, we really had achieved a lot. And I'll tag our page on here for you to still check out and see what we've sort of done. We also exhibited as vendor at Lagos Fashion Week. In 2022, we had about 6 of our students who also exhibited their work on the runway. Just really, really proud moment. moment. A couple of our students also had relocated to study abroad based on the portfolio that they were able to make in our class. Some people had gone on to start their brands as well. So really, 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 really impressed. There's people who had done our creative business course had also gone ahead to start exhibiting their work at galleries. And the workshop had also empowered some women, empowered youths, giving them some classes, in collaboration with First Bank, OctaFX, and a few other brands that really saw the value that we were giving. So yeah, workshop really did a thing in 2022. In 2022 as well, I exhibited another of my work in South Africa with Electa Gallery, and that also did well. It sounds like I'm really only mentioning the highlights of my career, but there's been some low points where I've just always wondered what's going to happen next. But I think the only thing that kept me going was really having a vision and trusting that this vision was not given by my own calculation. It was something that I'd anchored on God. Like, God gave me this vision. God gave me the gifts to be able to visualize and be a visionary and dream. And so because of that, I know that if I can just, work, pray, and move, the things will happen, and they did happen. So at the end of 2022, I remember in October, just around the moment where a lot of things were still sort of happening, I heard a voice that said something new is coming. It sounded sort of like that. It was not like a clear, I heard a voice, but I felt it. Like, I knew it. It was like, oh, something has to change, or something new has to happen, or something needs to stop and something needs to begin. It was very, like, I was literally scrolling on social media when I felt this really strong nudge. And I remember immediately I called Ak and I was like, oh my gosh, babes, something needs to change. We need to maybe rework our vision board. We need to start something or stop something. He was like, okay, girl, chill. And, the year came to an end. My health crashed late of November, and that was a full stop for me. I had to release everybody to go on break and just really work on my health. I lost a lot of weight in this year, 2022. So fast forward now to 2023, that voice that I heard came again in January, the beginning of the year, while we were fasting and doing our leadership retreat in church. And it was very clear that God wanted me to stop something and start something. And I was unsure. But one thing that I knew very clearly in the middle of all these things that I was feeling, I was unsure. One thing that was sure, that was clear, was that I knew that God wanted me to sit at his feet. And I heard that one very clearly. I knew that he wanted me to spend more time with him this year. And whatever it is that would hinder me from learning and sitting at his feet and being patient and just being in a moment, a pause moment, in a rest moment, he was going to remove, whether I willingly removed it or he just found ways to remove it. And I remember late last year, I desired a lot to do Bible school. And in January, my pastor recommended that a couple of us did the Bible school. It just happened that Bible school physical classes that I wanted to do would happen on Saturdays, and the workshop mainly held on Saturdays in the year. So there really was no way to overcalculate this. I knew that God wanted me to close the workshop, and I didn't know how long I would have to close the workshop. It was painful. I delayed. I was partly obeying. I closed the physical class. I kept the online class, and the Holy Spirit was like, girl, you need to live in obedience. And eventually, when I closed down the workshop completely, I felt a lot of rest. And so I've just since then been navigating sitting at the feet of my Father. I'm still trying to understand what that means. It's been a very interesting year, 2023. So that's all of my career journey up until now. I mean, I can't give too much details. There's a lot in between. There's a lot of other things that happen, but it's sort of like a summary. And so I've learned so much in the past 10 years of my career, and I would maybe in the next video share 20 things that I've learned. But for now, I will just close with talking about my newest assignment, or my latest assignment. Okay, so in this moment of pause of 2023, I've realized how much I had attached my worth to my career achievements. If you even hear when Aka talks about how he fell in love with me, it was because because of the things that I did and the things that I would achieve and how I was and how ambitious and creative that I was. And that's what drew him to me. But God has been showing me to me. And, when it felt like he was taking away something that was constantly bringing income in my pocket and to my family, I felt like I needed to do something else to contribute or to feel like a significant contributor in my family. And that didn't make sense because I'm an excellent wife and mother. And so my finances and my pocket or my activities should not determine my worth. But, the Holy Spirit and God sort of released and revealed this to me. And so it's been a very tough thing. It's been tough, but I've come to a position where I have to realize that I am who God has said I am, regardless of what I've attached myself to or what I'm carrying as my personal achievements in life. So, of course, God has been doing a lot of work in me. I remember in January, I was praying so much about pruning. Yes, I did get pruned that week. In fact, that day, as I prayed, oh God, please prune me. You said the one that is bearing fruit is the one that you prune. Let me know, prune me. Guys, well, that's another gist. It was such a terrible one. I embarrassed my entire family, but I'm sure the angels, when they were hearing this prayer too, and they're like, Baba God, the girl is praying for pruning. Oh, why should they rush? She don't know say this entire year now pruning. And God was like, just show her small, just go and show her a little. And I really learned a lot about my identity in that small week of pruning that I experienced. Unknown to me that the entire year I would go through different levels and different things that God was going to be exposing to me about me. And this also means that being ambitious is a bad thing, but God even wants ambitious and zealous people on his team because there's an assignment to go into the world, preach the gospel, and to dominate, right? So he wants us to come with that energy. But I've realized how over the years I've done a lot of these things in the flesh, and these things I've gone through some experiences that have sown bad seeds in me. And so God wants to take that, zealousness. He wants to take that ambition and cleanse it and purify it and make it holy and make it acceptable for his work, for what he wants to do with it. And I'm happy to be, on that journey and in this experience. And I'm happy to go through a renewal of mindset, although it's just tough sometimes. I've heard the Holy Spirit give me his word and some prophecies. He has said that he wants to make me an instrument in the industry, not just to be one person doing significant work, but for his own work, and just to sanctify everything that I do, whether it's fashion, arts, mothering, whatever, teaching. He really just wants to sanctify it for himself. So I'm no longer just doing things, but I'm doing things for him. Seek ye first the kingdom and all other things will be added. My life is on this journey of really seeking God's will and seeking his kingdom, what populates his kingdom, what increases the agenda of Christ, without being like all too Jesus-y. But I really don't care much about that, do I? I don't know. I think we'll think about this again. But I want the mundane or the simple things or the even complex things to, when you look at them, for you to see Christ in it. This does not mean that I'm a pastor or anything. I just really want to please my King in my work, in my career. He's giving me these interests and these talents, and it's not just for my pockets or for me to just achieve things and gain all this popularity and fame, but it's for something else, and I really want to know what it is. And this requires a lot of yielding, a lot of surrender, a lot of submission. When I keep saying that it's not me that live, but Christ that lives in me, what does that really mean in my career? What does that live? I am just even saying this for you to think about it. Like, with the work that you do, how is Christ living in you through your work? So I'm on an assignment and I'm making progress. It's all not so clear, but every day, every minute, every hour, I'm learning something. Other areas of my life feels like the devil is trying to drag me backwards, and but I know that I can only press forward. Like, I can only move forward. I can't go backwards. I can only move forward, and there is all the encouragement and support that I need around me. And I'm so grateful for my husband, who is also understanding of my assignments in life and who is also being an amazing support. And I also am grateful for my influencing job and for you guys on YouTube. I've also started getting monetized by YouTube. I'm grateful for all the ads that you've been watching. I'm grateful for all the shares. It's really, really touchy. So I'm going to leave with letting letting you think about this and give yourself perspective in your career, whether you're about to get into a new career or you're navigating into something else. Is it just about your financial growth, or are you thinking about how your work impacts the person beside you or the people around you or even the company, the agenda you're pushing? Like, think about it. And yeah, let me know if you enjoyed this video. I love you, and I'll see you in my next. Peace.